Okay, in your two films, Now and Never and How to Invent Reality,
Yes.
you ask questions about the reality, the truth, and the documentary films. So, when and why did you start to making stage documentaries?
Well, I started actually right when I came out of film school in Copenhagen, all the way back in 1976. I did a whole areas of film, in one called Jenny, another one called A Rich Man, and a film in America, my first film in America called Hotel of the Stars, which were all based on the assumption that that you actually have to. For me, it became very important to eliminate the presence of the camera, So to show the world that fascinated me, as it were, before the camera arrived and distorted it, I have to find a way to deduct the instrument. And I did that by actually, I do features as well, by actually working with the reality, the fragments of reality I work with, in exactly the same way as I work with features. I did a lot of research, I write a script, of course with very often very free dialogue. But I make a storyboard. I know every aspect of my film, my documentary film. So I'm definitely not the kind of guy who is a fly on the wall. I don't follow reality because I need to control my visuals. And also I think, what is reality? I don't know what reality is. I only know how I perceive the world. And I have to be as honest as possible about that. And make some very artistic choices in order to convey how I see the world, and then I can hope, like talking to you right now, that somebody else can use my statement for something in their lives, right?
So that's the next question. What does reality means to you?
Yeah, but I think reality is a kind of a stupid word. Right? Of course, within journalism, you can say that, some guy was killed, three guys was killed in a car crash, or 200,000 people died from some sickness or something like that. But when you talk about human interreactions, and that's the main story matter for all kind of artistic things. You are in a very subjective thing. That where you have to. I don't think there's such a thing as reality. I think it's actually, from a political point of view, that's something that the media wants us to believe there is such a thing as reality, because that makes it much easier for them to press how they think reality should be interpreted. I think we all have to interpret reality. That's part of being human. That's our own responsibility to define our reality.
Okay, what does a documentary film means to you?
It only means that I use fragments of reality to tell my story, together with those people who live in those fragments of reality. I think for me, documentary filmmaking is as subjective as fiction film making. The real important thing is that you have a talent to tell your story, and that you are honest, that you don't that you really dare to talk from the bottom of your heart or of your feelings, and you don't try to become, as many as we tend to be. Probably I tend to be that right now. You want to come across as being a bright, intelligent guy. So you say sentences that because they'll function from start to end. I think it's very important that sometimes we say broken sentences, that we admit that we doubt about life. Right? I think doubt is a very it's a jewel that we disregard, right? Everybody is afraid of being doubting, right? But we should be that's the material real life is built of, that's doubt, right?
What does a fiction film means to you?
A fiction film is just another technique, like in painting, some painters work with small pieces to find the collect on the beach or in the garbage dump or something like that. Other painters, they go there and buy tubes of paint. And fiction film, of course, you start out with something which is purely artificial, like actors, and you put up set design, and then you tell with those components. But it's only another way of technically working with storytelling. Both documentary and features are storytelling, and both of them is totally subjective. The one is not more truthful than the other.
Okay, and what's exactly the difference between a fiction film and a documentary film for you?
The difference?
Exactly the difference.
Yeah, the differences are, Differences, of course, is that when I work with the way I work with documentary films, I have to, I cannot force my actors, the real people, to do something which is not part of their life. When I work with the real actors, I can force them to do whatever I want them to do, because they have a technique to do that, right? So maybe sometimes it's like playing on a slightly bigger piano, with a little more keys, but not necessarily better keys, right? And then there's a practical difference, which is that making feature films, by the very nature of it, is much more expensive. My freedom is much higher. I can do stuff that I would never be allowed to do in feature films. So that's probably one of my reasons for... No, it's not my main reason, but it's one of my reasons for working with the style I work with. And of course, the most important thing is that I love to go out. I have a story in my mind, and then I go out in the world and find fragments that I can use to tell that story. That fits me perfectly. That style, right?
Okay, and last but not least, where's the difference between reality and truth for you?
My God, this is a very philosophical question so early in the morning. But truth, what is truth? Of course, there's a literal truth. 2 plus 2 is 4, and if I take a gun to my head and shoot out my brain, I'll probably die, right? But apart from that, again, when you get to all kind of interrelation between people and with the way of what is life, what's the meaning of life, it's up to each and every person to kind of come up with a definition for that. And then, of course, what I hope to support in the way I work is, of course, that none of us should feel stupid. We should always feel that we have the ability to define our own reality. We have the ability to define our own truth. And we should also be totally, which I think is enormously important, be ready to change that truth, when we develop in life, That's a problem with many kind of the big nationalized truthfulness, that those guys, when they have built up the institutions around their armies, around one definition of truth, you cannot change it, right? They become stiff and aggressive and actually dangerous, right?
Thank you
for
the interview.
Thank you.